What is up, everybody? Alex here from Alto Music and Heavy New York. We are here at the Gramercy Theater. We got Revocation during the Morbid Angel and Suffocation tour. It's great to have you guys here. Thank you for being here. Yeah. So the first thing is always first. Great as Our Sin is the latest record, and it's been out since the summer, right? Came out last summer. And how's the record been? The record cycle been?
Yeah, it's been killer. Done a lot of touring so far. Right when it came out, we did Summer Slaughter.
Yes.
We went to Europe after that. Then we did the whole 70,000 Tons cruise. Went to Australia. We've been staying really busy, and now we're happy to be on this current summer tour here.
Yeah, New Zealand and Hawaii as well. We did Hawaii for our first time, which was fucking fantastic.
How's the metal in Hawaii?
Well, it's a small island that's predominantly a tourist industry and stuff. So we had a couple hundred people out to the show.
They got volcanoes. That's pretty metal.
They got volcanoes. Yeah, yeah.
We actually played inside of a volcano.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
100%.
An active
story.
volcano.
Yeah.
That must have saved you a fortune on pyrotechnics, right?
Yep, but it did burn off a lot of our skin, unfortunately. But
And
it grew back.
and
so that's
our gear too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think you guys have some pretty good inspiration for the next record.
molten riffs.
Molten Riffs. All right. You heard it on Heavy New York and Alto Music. You cannot steal that name. Now, you mentioned, Summer Slaughter, the first, so it came out like around that time, and you also, I just saw you at St. Vitus this winter, and now almost a year after the record came out. So, do you prefer to play newer material when it's been out for a while and it's been processed more, or do you like to play it when it's fresh and everybody is probably super new Revocation songs?
Well, when you put out a record, there's 10 songs to choose from. So I think it's good to try to cycle in different songs from that album throughout the whole touring process, right? So when you come out of the gate, you play the first two songs that were initially released, and then as the touring cycle goes on, you start to play more of the deeper cuts or whatever from the album, so you kind of give people a full taste of the new stuff. That's just how I like to roll.
For sure. There's some standards that we play that I always enjoy playing, like Mantis Opus and stuff, but I love playing new material because it's fresh, and especially this is my first debut drumming on any record, so yeah, I have a bias towards playing new material, but it's also fun and exciting to whip out new stuff for people.
Yeah, and you mentioned that this is your first record, which was kind of going into the next question, because I know that you originally came from 3 Inches of Blood, which I would say is fairly different from Revocation, in terms of style, and I'm not a drummer, but I would say maybe a little bit of technique-wise too. So I'm just curious, recruiting Ash here, did that maybe allow you to bring a different element that maybe Revocation didn't have in previous records, and how different did you have to change your technique coming into Revocation?
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you bring any new member into the fold, I think it's going to change up the sound a little bit, because everyone has their own influences, their own technique. So with Ash, it was really great because he came from a very strong metal background, but also had a great prog rock background as well. Listens to a lot of Frank Zappa and Rush, and just as a fan of a lot of different drumming styles in general. So to take all that, all those influences and incorporate them into the fabric of our style, just helped to kind of propel us to the next level, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking to his point, I think it's just more so important to do what's right for the music. So the tempos and some of the timing was a little bit out of my scope, but it's just something I just sat down and learned. You just make adjustments, and really it's all just music at the end of the day, so you just have to sit down and work it from a new approach it from a different angle and put your stamp on it. And you can learn just about anything in music if you put the time in and everything. So really I just want to play what's best for the music, and that's when Dave and I are writing together, that's the first thing I'm thinking about. So I don't know, that's about it, I guess.
So it was fairly a different process than 3 Inches of Blood.
Yeah, and again, faster tempos and different techniques. So I just I had to research and just be oh man, how am I gonna even pull this off? And then just work towards that goal of pulling it off, and then boom, here we are.
when I saw you guys the first time, because I think the first time I saw you was actually at that Summer Slaughter tour. So yeah, you were drumming at the time. I was in the back. So, but you were just killing it. So I mean, I couldn't tell that.
Did we play New York on that one?
Summer Slaughter, yeah. Oh, you guys were in the Marlin Room at Webster Hall, I believe.
Yeah, I remember.
Craziest circle pit ever. I saw somebody in like a wheelchair, like spinning around in there. That was awesome. That was an awesome time. Now, this is like about your third or fourth time in this record cycle alone coming to New York City. I'm so surprised you're not sick of us yet. But like, what is your take on New York City heavy metal? Do you think that? Because I mean, when you guys come out, like you packed out St. Vitus like it was nothing. Like I mean, you destroyed the place. It was awesome, and the Marlin Room at Webster Hall too. And so I'm just curious, what is your because some bands I've noticed they skip New York City on a lot of tours, but I've noticed usually on a lot of North American tours you at least make a stop in New York City, or at least like the vicinity of it. So what's your take on the metal life of New York City?
I mean, no bullshit. New York's one of my favorite places to play. It's a combination of a lot of factors, but I mean, just sheer population alone. I mean, metal is a very niche thing, but the more people you have living in a particular place, the more people are going to be into any particular subgenre. The scene is awesome. I mean, there's so many killer bands from here. You've got, a lot of really weird sort of genre pushing bands like Dysrhythmia, Krallis, who I think they're coming out tonight. Just so much interesting stuff that's constantly happening in this New York scene, not to mention like the jazz scene and all these different avant-garde scenes that are happening. So I think it's a very open-minded, very artistic place. I mean, it's a hub for artistic activity. So I love to try and tap into that, and I just love to come to New York just like to visit. I don't even have to play here. I'll come down from Boston for a weekend just to like hang out and see a bunch of shows. There's just always such a
Come to Yankee games?
I don't really care about sports, to be honest with you. People try to bait me with that all the time, and I'm a very bad Boston sports fan.
I was just like, maybe I should bring that up.
I wish I liked sports more because Boston has such a dynasty of amazing teams. Celtics and the Red Sox, Patriots. I can't get into it, man. I don't know.
Care less.
Yeah, I'll get sucked in at like playoff time. Like if like my friends are watching a game, I'll be like, yeah, go Celtics or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It was a good try.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I wouldn't take the bait on that. Anyway, New York. What do you think?
Everything that you just said, plus John Zorn too.
Oh yeah, Zorn. Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, okay. The Stone, Manhattan.
I also wanted to say it's Dave's birthday today.
are you serious?
Yeah, completely irrelevant from New York, but it's his birthday.
Happy fucking birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit. I should have done my research more. Holy crap.
What do you think about Dave's birthday?
How old are you? 26 now?
I just turned 21. Yeah.
Really? Also, I could finally get you a birthday shot, right?
I'm 31.
31?
Yep.
Damn.
And I'll look a day over 30 and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people, I've had a discussion, because I'm actually 23, and everybody calls me the fucking baby of the metal scene and stuff like that. And they're just like, oh man, you just wait, you're not going to be going to shows as much when you push like 35 because like you're going to get all exhausted and stuff like that. And when I see you play, I think you just totally debunk any of that, right?
I mean, I am old and shot now, so, we're shot.
Nah, I don't see it on stage. I don't see it on stage. And for Alta Music, because we specialize in gear and stuff like that, I'm just curious. I know that you're a Jackson user, and I actually don't know about the gear you use. My apologies, but that's why we're here. So what gear do you guys use in Revocation to get the Revocation sound?
Jackson guitars. Dan uses ESP. I'm using EVH amps. Dan's got PV as well. So yeah, just great guitar companies and amp companies that we work with that are really supportive of us, which is awesome. I've got a signature guitar with Jackson that I've been using for about a year now, so I'm very proud of how that came to be and how everything turned out. And I'm using DiMarzio pickups. They're another New York company, so showing the New York love. Yeah, Ash, tell us about your gear.
2-gallon jug drums.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yellow River Boy cymbals.
It's
So-
not good. You gotta get the Saint anchor.
Son of a gun sticks. Yeah, drums.
What it sounds like?
That's exactly what it sounds like.
Wow.
Wow. I wonder if that's Frank singing or probably. Anyways, Tama drums, Vic Firth sticks, Sabian cymbals, Evans Drumheads, Roland Electronics, and then I work for Drumeo as well, back in Canada, which I like to, I like to include them because I don't know, they hype me up a lot and give me a lot in return. So, yeah, those are the companies.
That's kick-ass. Now, did you pick your gear because that's something that was like your first guitar, or that's like a brand you're the most experienced with, so you're the most comfortable using, or did you pick that gear because it really helps with the Revocation sound?
Well, I think the sound is going to come from the musician playing whatever gear that you're doing. So for me, it's you have to have a quality instrument, and like I want it to have like an aesthetic look that I like. But as far as like achieving a particular sound, I mean, a lot of that's in my head, and I just kind of like tweak it to my taste, like as far as like the specific things like the pickups go, like I've been working really closely with DiMarzio to make some pickups for me that really have a dialed in sound that I'm looking for. That's something where I will say like, yeah, this is specifically what I'm going for, what I'm hearing in my head. But as far as like, amp companies go and stuff like that, like with the Revocation sound, it's hard to say because I think the two kind of work together. It's not like, oh, this amp is gonna like achieve like the Revocation sound or whatever. It's just I like the sound of this amp, and then that has sort of become the Revocation sound as years have gone on. If that makes any sense, it's like it's not really a chicken or an egg thing. It's kind of like the two are working together at the same time, where it's like a piece of gear might inspire a new idea or something like that, or it could be like vice versa, where like I'm playing something that I feel. Or like I have a sound in my head, and like it's like, let me just sort of tweak this thing a little bit to get it further to where I want it to sound. So I feel like if you get like an open mind and like a good way of sort of dialing in your specific taste, you can kind of make anything work. It's just, what is the right tool for the job to help it make it easier every night after night to execute the sound that you're going for or the feel that you're going for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like I feel my style would come through on almost any drum set that I play. So I mean, I love Tama drums, and I use birch babinga wood on the set that I have. It sounds fantastic. And then Vic Firth, Evans, and Sabian, I've been playing them all since I first started playing drums, and I just like the sound of them, But stylistically, my playing will come through I feel on most suitable gear that I play. So. I pick the good stuff, but I feel like I would hopefully sound good on even like a mid-level or low-level drum set, hopefully because of the playing style, Yeah,
I would say like, it all comes down to the company you're working with and like sort of the quality that they're putting behind it. Like, do you like who's endorsing you? Is there a good relationship there? And can they deliver you like whether it's like a specific wood for the drum kit or a specific neck profile that you're looking for on the guitar that will make things easier? That's I think where it comes down to like touring or in the studio, like what feels right. And for me, Jackson guitars just like feel really really good.
Yeah. And I'd imagine because you're also singing and playing guitar that you probably had to adjust the body as well, like to be able to kind of adjust that. I've heard rumors, like I know that Alexi Leho from Children of Bodom, he like has the V adjusted because he plays the guitar on his knee while singing. So I've heard like singer and guitar players actually like to adjust the guitar and whatever based on if they're singing or not.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I've never had to actually really do that. I think partially just the warrior shape. I was always drawn to it, but just the way it's kind of laid out, there's these cool angles to it. So depending on if it's just sitting on me and I'm playing normally, or if I'm like getting to play a solo, there's these weird sort of contours to it that just naturally fit my body well. But that was just the shape to begin with that guitar. I didn't have to like have it like contoured in a special way. I know some like luthiers do that, where they'll like even like take measurements of your actual body to like mold the guitar to you. So I haven't had to do that. That warrior shape just sort of naturally has been a good fit for me, thankfully.
That's awesome. And one question I wanted to ask, kind of going off gear now, but I know that you're from Boston, and you're from Canada, but because the band originated from Boston, Massachusetts, that area is the home of so many awesome metal bands like Killswitch Engage, All That Remains, Shadows Fall, Unearthed, Diecast, all that. So I'm just curious, and I would say, that was kind of, I hate the term, but the metalcore capital of the world. Like Killswitch Engage is considered to be the Nirvana of that sort of movement and stuff like that. So, but I consider Revocation to be very different from those bands. So when you were getting involved in the Boston scene, were you kind of looked at as a different thing, and maybe that helped you in a way?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of those bands that you mentioned aren't really Boston bands. They're coming from more of the Western Mass scene. Became known as Boston bands. They've certainly have played in the Boston area a lot. But for us, we never have played any. I don't think we played shows with any of like those big, metalcore bands that you've referenced, because it was just sort of like more of like a Worcester kind of Western Central Mass kind of vibe. So for us coming up in the scene, we were influenced by bands that weren't necessarily the ones you mentioned. For me, a big one was Random Acts of Violence. We stayed with my buddy Matt, who used to play in that band on this tour actually, and they were like a local, just really killer Boston thrash band. They had maybe some progressive elements. They were doing some different things. A band that no one really knows about, unfortunately, but you can check them out. Random Acts of Violence. They were just a really, really influential band for me. And playing with them in like various clubs, I really kind of looked up to them as a kid. Became good buddies with all the members. So bands like that, and I think a lot of unsung heroes from the local scene. Goratory was another band that just reunited for Maryland Death Fest. Killer, gore grind band, just weird riffs. My buddy Alan plays guitar. My buddy Adam's a singer. So there was a lot of bands that I think maybe weren't on a lot of people's radars that ended up, influencing us and, just made us want to strive to get to that next level, because we saw like a bunch of dudes like doing rad stuff. Even bands like Despotic Robot, who became Ramming Speed later on, who were homies of ours, influenced me in terms of like their DIY aesthetic and like just going out and like hitting the road constantly and touring and like just saying like, let's get in the van and do it. Like, seeing all those bands in the scene like working so hard just made me want to grind that much harder myself.
Yeah, and kind of going to Canadian territory. I mean, Canada's a huge place, so I don't expect everybody to know each other, but like, it's the home of Threat Signal, Devin Townsend, The Agonists, so many awesome bands. So I was just curious, when you were in 3 Inches of Blood, or just getting involved in the world of metal in general, what was it like? Was there like a huge metal scene in Canada that kind of helped you evolve from there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up in Vancouver, which is a province in the West Coast, just above Washington State. So, yeah, I mean, Canada's like the second largest country in the world. So, I can't speak for all of it. But, I mean, in terms of local bands, at the time that I started playing, Strapping Young Lad was a local band from Vancouver, because Devin Townsend went to school just down the road from me. And 3 Inches of Blood was a local band, too. And there was a bunch of really great local bands around the time I started playing. And then I ended up meeting everybody in the scene at that time. So it was a really fantastic, special, short-lived time to be playing shows, and it left an indelible effect on me forever. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't meet the Strapping guys and any 3 Inches guys or anything like that. So yeah, I can't even believe I in air quotes made it out of there. You know what I mean? I love living there, but I mean, it's really easy to. I mean, it's kind of hard to get out of Canada sometimes. You know what I mean? There's not really Canadian record labels and stuff like that, and there are some local Canadian bands now who are doing some cool shit, but still the odds are kind of stacked against you unless you want to really get out there and tour, right? So, as a drummer, I'm really surprised that I made it out of there.
Well, you know the term I've always heard, a drummer in a local scene, like there's a formula. There's like 1,000 singers in a scene, then there's like 500 guitar players, 200 of them can also play bass, and then there's one drummer who's already in 40 different bands.
Yeah,
That's
and possibly a singer too.
Yeah. So before we go, first of all, thank you guys for being here. It means a lot. Is there anything you can announce, or anything you want to promote, or give shout outs to anybody?
As far as stuff to promote, tomorrow, which would be Tuesday if you're watching this, the 30th, our very first transcription book is coming out.
Awesome.
Dan and I, as well as this guy named Daniel, another guitar player, worked really hard to transcribe everything note for note from our album Deathless. So that'll be coming out through Sheet Happens Publishing. So if you're a guitar player and want to learn some stuff, go pick that up. Other than that, I mean, I think our record still has a lot of life left in it. I mean, we're still touring on it. We're going to be doing another tour in the fall that we can't announce yet, but you know, go pick up that record if you're not familiar with the band. And that's really it. You got anything you want to plug?
We're doing Europe with Converge,
Yeah,
which
the
is
festivals,
going to be great. So we're gonna do some festivals, just as Revocation, and then we're gonna be hopping on a tour with Gore, Guts, and Havoc, and Fallujah, and Converge for parts. So that's gonna be a package, for a little bit
Gotta
as
bring
well.
that tour to New York.
Yeah, it'd be great. Any side project stuff we can talk about or anything?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got a side product band in the works right now, so it's going to be a totally new project.
We have a name, or you can't announce anything yet?
We have a name. I'm gonna probably hold off on announcing it until it's just the two of us right now, so we have to find like a couple other members. But yeah, expect to hear some stuff about that in the next few months or so once we kind of compile our ideas a little bit more. But we already have like a few songs in the works, like maybe like 4 or 5, and it's definitely going to be a departure. It's kind of like Virus Worship mixed with some kind of jazzy influences, and it'll definitely have like a metal vibe, but it's going to be all singing. Kind of has like a little bit of like an Alice in Chains vibe in the vocals mixed with some just really weird out there stuff. So it'll be, people will either dig it or they won't. But I'm really excited for it. I'm very passionate about this new product. So a few months that'll be coming out.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I've heard its few songs. It's really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
We got something to look forward to.
Yeah, I started playing in a band with Jed Simon from Strapping a Lad,
really?
as well, and so we're working on stuff, on and off. I fly to Philly like once every couple months, and we just write a bunch of shit. So we got like 8 or 9 songs, and we're hoping to record that shit like next year, early next year or something like that.
Sweet.
Yeah, no name for that yet, or not one that I would announce.
So much mystery.
Yeah. I'll never tell.
But exactly. You heard it first on Heavy New York and Alto Music. But again, guys, thank you so much. Everybody, Alex from Heavy New York and Alto Music. Be sure to check out the latest Revocation record, Great Is Our Sin. If you haven't checked it out yet, you have been missing out. It came out a year ago, and it is absolutely awesome. And be sure to catch them on the remaining tour dates with Morbid Angel and Suffocation, and we will see you next time.